Roma is written and directed by Alfonso Cuaron. It takes place in the neighborhood of Mexico City that is called Roma, and it is set in the early 1970s, specifically from 1970 to 1971, following the year of an upper middle class family, heavily inspired by Cuaron's own childhood and memories. But rather than focus on him and his childhood and have a child actor who could serve as a surrogate for himself, the film's central character is actually the familial servant, the house servant, called Cleo. She's the house servant, as I said, or the housemaid. She does all the cooking and cleaning. She takes care of the children, and she takes very good care of the children. She has a very strong, very affectionate, very loving relationship with these children that are not her own. And this creates a beautiful and very interesting relationship where there's clearly a lot of love and respect and affection from both sides, but because, all things considered, she's still an employee of this family, there's still obviously going to be a certain amount of unbalance within that relationship. And that's through no fault of the children, obviously. Children are children, they're little bundles of love, but at the same time of ego and narcissism, and that's the whole point of growing up, is to become more self-conscious, less self-absorbed. Unless, you don't, and then you just become a giant piece of shit, or if you're very lucky, President of the United States. And again, the relationship that Cleo has with the children's mother is still very affectionate and respectful and healthy, but it's obviously because of both their statuses unbalanced and unequal. And that point's kind of made stronger by the fact that these two women are dealing with very similar issues of abandonment. In the case of the mother figure, the father figure of the family is never around. He's always claiming to be on these business trips and leaves for months at a time, and during the course of this film, he is almost never there. He's supposedly in Quebec, actually, but we quickly learn that he's just, fucking around with his mistress. In Cleo's case, she is in a sort of relationship with a young man called Fermin, and she falls pregnant. And as soon as she tells Fermin that she's pregnant, he abandons her in a movie theater and just fucks off and is never to be seen again. The male figures, the paternal figures in Roma are constantly absent. They're cowardly, they're selfish. This family, despite that absence, is still a two-parental household, if you will, except in this case it's actually two mothers. And you could say that in essence this film is this family realizing this and essentially choosing to move forward. All of this is recreated in gorgeous black and white with a majority of wide lenses in these absolutely magnificent slow panning shots. When you're in the house, which is the central point for the characters, which is where a lot of the film takes place, you just get an incredible sense of spatial awareness and geography, and that very early on, because it's one of the first sequences in the film where we see Cleo go about her day-to-day business in the morning, and we are shown this house in almost actually in 360 degrees. It's funny actually because this film could sort of be compared to a lot of what Fellini did. Obviously he made a film called Fellini's Roma, and if you look at a film like Amarcord, it's got a lot of similar themes and ideas to Cuaron's film, but this opening shot really made me think of another Italian neo-realist film, which was Ettore Scola's A Peculiar Day, where you have this tracking shot that goes from the courtyard of a building all the way up into Sophia Loren's apartment, and then just follows her around the house. And in that way, you basically get a sense of what the entirety of the set in which the film's going to take place, you get a sense of what that looks like. And when we get to exterior shots, we're still given these wide, but filled to the brim and incredibly detailed, just full of life, gorgeous shots with tons of background extras just going about their day and just doing their business, which was again very reminiscent of just classic films from the 50s and 60s where you couldn't fill the screen with computer-generated images, so you actually had to get a ton of extras. Now, maybe this is all done or there's some CGI in there, and I would actually be surprised if there wasn't, but even seeing it in, you know, an incredible 4K DCP sitting way too close to the screen actually than I would have liked to, because the screening sold out pretty quickly, I still couldn't tell what was real and what wasn't, and in essence, that's really what matters, is if it's credible, and oh my god, is it credible and beautiful. The amount of people and things and movement and life that goes on in the background just gives this sense that there's this larger, wider, literally shot with wide lenses, bigger story that's taking place concurrently to what's going on. It just happens that we're focusing in on this family, but there are tons of other stories in the background happening at the same time. And these slow pans that keep going, and in a way almost could evoke the Earth's rotation, signifying that no matter what's going on, the Earth still keeps spinning, you know, life still goes on no matter what. It is an exceptionally beautiful movie that's actually shot by Alfonso Cuaron. He is the cinematographer for this one. He is not working with his usual collaborator, Manuel Lebetsky, although I heard he did work on some pre-production things originally, but was unavailable to shoot the film. But I do not recall being this agape in a movie theater in a very long time. It's just a masterful piece of filmmaking whose stroke of genius is really that Cuaron decided to pull away from his own narcissism and tell his childhood memories, but through somebody else's story. Somebody for whom he obviously has a deep, deep amount of love and respect, and whom he felt deserved to be in the foreground of the film. I loved every second of it. It is, for me, Cuaron's magnum opus, probably his greatest film to date, and it's funny actually because he actually manages to reference some of his films where maybe he could have been inspired as a child in some really funny and interesting ways, actually. It is what Netflix movies should all strive for. It is, in my opinion, the first true Netflix masterpiece. And I'm gonna be that asshole that says, if you can see this in a theater, please do. It's worth it. The sound, I haven't talked about the sound, but the Atmos sound, the amount of detail and work that has been done in the sound design is absolutely exceptional. It's gorgeous and deserves to be seen on the biggest screen possible. That being said, if you're one of those people that lives like 250 miles away from where this thing is screening, I'm actually very, very content that this film will be distributed through Netflix, because that means that it's going to be literally dropped in the living rooms of hundreds of millions of people, where, you know, a film like this, even if it wasn't Netflix, was never going to get a giant theatrical run. And so just for that, it's wonderful that it's on Netflix. But yes, if you can go out and see this on a real movie screen, then I really encourage you to do so, because that for me will be the optimum viewing experience. So as always, thanks so much for watching the video. Be sure to hit the like button if you like the review, subscribe if you're new, or if you're interested in watching some other videos. And this is actually going to be the last review that I do this year. Upcoming videos in the next few weeks they'll be like this sort of 2018 like catch-up video where I just talk about a bunch of films that I've seen, sort of for like year-end list stuff, and just that I didn't have time or the need to make a full review of. And I'm also going to be putting out a year-end lists and this sort of thing, and that should take us into about mid-January. So yeah, again, thanks so much for watching, and until next time, see ya!